I am not a witch. With those words, a candidate for the office of Senator for the state of Delaware began one of her first campaign commercials. She made that comment because there was video floating around of her at a much younger age saying that when she was dating a young man, she happened to dabble a little bit in witchcraft. And so the mass media and her political opponent tried to take advantage of that and make her look to be silly. You saw that similar effort later on in the debate where Christine O'Donnell, that is, met with her opponent, Chris Coons. And Wolf Blitzer asked her if she believed in evolution. Well, the clear implication was if you don't believe in evolution, you are silly, just like if you dabbled in witchcraft. You're just silly. You don't really have the kind of intellectual weight necessary to serve as a senator for the state of Delaware. So the campaign has moved on. But witchcraft, the raising of the issue has brought into a little bit of public view the whole movement of Wicca and Satanism in the United States. What is the role of the occult? And does the occult have any influence on the U.S. government, elements of the government? There has been considerable interest in these kinds of things, not so much on a public scale, but certainly across the nation. When you turn on the television set, you see a wide variety of programs that highlight the occult world. There is an interest in spiritual matters, but not the spirituality so much of the Christian faith as the spirituality of the New Age movement, spirituality of more occultic themes as well. What are we to make of these kinds of things, and what role do they have in a modern culture? After all, we pride ourselves on being a modern scientific community. We've put aside the superstitions of the past, haven't we? And we moved on. We are committed to our science and to a rational view of the world. If you, however, have been following the course of philosophy and culture in general, you will see that there's been something of a breakdown of the consensus of a rational world. The old modernism, the old view of the world is crumbling under a postmodern movement which abandons any sense of rationality or a sense of hard rules, hard and fast rules, rather sees that relativism infects everything, including even physics, theory of relativity. And so with that rather diverse universe, with all different kinds of perspectives open, people are beginning to be much more open to spirituality. In the 60s, here in the United States at least, the occult began to take on considerable influence across the country. There was the writings of a gentleman by the name of Castaneda, I believe a psychology professor out of the University of California, who met with Don Juan, an ancient Indian, who talked about his nativistic views, his spirituality. He got him involved in some hallucinogenic drugs, and he began seeing or having a window into reality that was different from the Western rational mindset. More of an Eastern, if you will, mindset. Spirituality. The occult. Using occult powers to accomplish things. Isaiah writes in a time when occult powers were much more evident, perhaps, than they are today. He's writing about the empire, which was known for its reliance on the occult. We remember the Christmas story of the Magi coming from the east, Chaldeans, who were astrologers, but also probably had some interest as well in the occult realm. In any case, the Babylonian kingdom had been a kingdom where there was considerable interest in the occult. Astrologers, sorcerers, fortune tellers, soothsayers accumulated there in Babylon, and the political leadership would consult with these astrologers and other wise men for guidance with regard to what kinds of decisions they ought to make. In our previous chapter, Isaiah, in addressing the people of Babylon, talks about God's war with their gods, with Bel and Nebo, and how Bel and Nebo, or Marduk and Nebo, would grow old, as it were, and stoop down and would perish, or at least be diminished in their influence on the earth before the Lord Himself. Marduk, the primary god of the Babylonians, and Nebo, his son, the god of wisdom and knowledge, would have to bow before the Lord God, the true God. In fact, God would make the case that they were no gods. But in His war against the gods of the Babylonians, God also brought His warfare against the people and the state themselves. And He argued against their reliance upon themselves and their use of the occult to maintain their position of power and prosperity. In the 47th chapter of Isaiah, Isaiah talks about the occult elements of the Babylonian Empire. But before getting into those elements, he begins by asserting the Lord's judgment on the people of Babylon, how He would devastate that nation, such that these who once were sitting on thrones and ruling over the empires of the earth would now be slaves working at hard labor, working at the mill grinding flour. They would be crossing streams to work in fields, being exposed to the sun, so that once delicate and protected skin of their beautiful young women are now going out and working in the fields and having to expose themselves in a variety of ways to accomplish their work. Such was the devastation that would come to the Babylonian kingdom. All this, remember, being said at a time when Isaiah is looking ahead and the Babylonian Empire is still on its rise. And so Isaiah is giving a warning to the people of Babylon in advance. Don't trust in yourself, don't trust in your occult powers, feeling that your manipulation of the forces of darkness will protect you at all times. They are nothing in comparison to the Lord God, the God of Israel. There is an assertion in the 4th verse of chapter 47 of the Lord God being the God of Israel. He's the Holy One of Israel, Israel's Redeemer. It's kind of an odd insertion there. When you look at the text, there is in the first 3 verses a description of God's judgment upon the Babylonians. Then there's this blunt, if you will, assertion of the Lord's name and character. And then a continuing discussion of the Babylonians and God's judgments on